but perhaps not as stagnant with the young man as you would have the country believe, he says. Who says I'm not? I say. I do, says the president, and I wouldn't be here if I were the only person who had doubts. How's the handsome cousin? I don't know. I don't. My revolution at this conversation. I discussing my feelings for two of the people I care most about. With President Snow, just me off. Speak. Miss everything. Him I can easily kill off if we don't come to happy resolution, he says. You are doing him a favor by disappearing into the woods with him each Sunday. If he knows this, what else does he know? And how does he know it? Many people could tell him that Gail and I spend our Sundays hunting. Don't we show up at the inn? Haven't we for years? The real question is what he thinks goes on in the woods beyond District 12. Surely they haven't been tracking us in there, or have they? Could we have been followed? That seems impossible, at least by a person. Cameras. That never crossed my mind until this moment. The woods have always been our place of safety, our place beyond the reach of the capital, where we are free to say what we feel, but who we are. At least before the games, we have been watched since. What have they seen? Two people hunting, staying prisoners since against the capital, yes. But not two people in love, which seems to be President Snow's implication. We are safe on this charge. Unless. It only happened once. It was fast and unexpected, but it did happen. After Peter and I got home from the games, it was several weeks before I saw Gail alone. But there was a banquet for the factors that only the most high-ranking people were invited to. A holiday for the whole district with it only happened once. It was fast and a banquet for the factors that only the most high-ranking people were invited to. A holiday for the whole district with free food and entertainers brought in from the capital. The sale day, the first of 12, in which food packages were delivered to every person in this district. That was my favorite, to see all those hungry kids in the scene running around, within cans of a back home. Too big to carry would be bags of grain, cans of oil, to know that once a month for a year that would all receive another parcel. That was one of the few times I actually felt good about winning the games. So between the ceremonies and events and the reporters documenting my every move as I presided and sang and kissed Peter for the audience, I had no privacy at all. After a few weeks, since family died down, the camera crews and reporters packed up and went home. Peter and I assumed the cool relationship we had ever since. My family settled into our house in the Festus village. The everyday life of District 12. Workers to the mines, kids to school, resumed its usual paces. I waited until I saw the coast was really clear, and then one Sunday, without telling anyone, I got up hours before dawn and took over the woods. The weather was still warm enough that I didn't need a jacket. I packed along a bag filled with. So between the ceremonies and events and the everyday life of District 12, workers to the mines, kids to school, resumed its usual pace. I waited until I saw the coast was really clear, and then one Sunday, Without telling anyone, I got out hours before dawn and took off for the woods. The weather was still warm enough that I didn't need a jacket. I packed along a bag filled with special food, cold chicken and cheese and bakery black and orange. Down at my old house, I put on my hunting boots. As usual, the fence was not charred and it was simple to slip into the woods and to carry my bow and arrows. I went to our places, girls and mine, where we had shared breakfast the morning of the ribbon that sent me into the games. I waited at least 2 hours. I would begin to think that he would give out on me in the weeks that had passed, or that he no longer cared about me, hated me even, and the idea of losing him forever, my best friend, the only person I would have ever trusted with my secrets, was so painful I couldn't stand it, not on top of everything else that had happened. I could feel my eyes tearing out and my throat starting to close the way it does when I get upset. And I looked up and there he was, 10 feet away, just watching me, without even thinking. I jumped out and threw my arms around him, making some wild sounds that combined laughing, choking, and crying. He was holding me so tightly that I couldn't see his face, but it was a really long time before he let me go, and that he didn't have much choice, but because I would gotten this unbelievable loud case of these hiccups and had to get a drink. We did what we always did that day: ate breakfast, hunted and fished and gathered, talked about people in town, but not about us. His new life in this month, my time in the arena, just about other things. By the time we were at the hole in the fence that's near the hub, I think I really believed that things could be the same, that we could go on as we always had. I would give all the game to go to church since we had so much food now. I told him I would give a help, even though I was looking forward to going there, because my mother and sister didn't even know I would go hunting, and they would be wondering where I was. Then suddenly Otherwise had suggested I take over the dairy snail run. He took my face in his hands and kissed me. I was completely unprepared. You would think like after all the hours I would spend with Gail, watching him talk and laugh and run, that I would know all there was to know about his lips, but I hadn't imagined how warm they would feel pressed against my arm, or how those hands, which could say the most intricate of snares, could as easily entrap me. I think I made some sort of noise. And I vaguely remember my fingers curled tightly closed, resting on his chest. Then he let go and said I had to do that at least once, and he was gone. Despite the fact that the sun was setting and my family would be worried, I sat by the tree next to the fence. I tried to decide how I felt about the kiss, if I liked it or resented it, but all I really remembered was the pressure of Gail's lips and the scent of the orange that still lingered on his skin. He was pointless, comparing it with the many kisses I would exchange with Peter. I still hadn't figured out if any of those counted. Finally, I went home. That week I managed to overmeet with Adelaide, but I didn't see Gail until Sunday. I had this whole speech workout about how I didn't want a boyfriend and I never planned on marrying, but I didn't end up using it. Gail asked us if the kiss had never happened. Maybe he was waiting for me to say something, or kiss him back. Instead, I just pretended it had never happened either, but it had. Girl had surely some invisible barrier between us, and with it, any hope I had of resuming our old, complicated friendship, whatever I pretended, I could receive in quite the same way. This old flashes through my head in an instant as President Snow's eyes bored into me on the heels of history to kill Gale. How stupid I had been to think the capital would just ignore me once I would return home. Maybe I didn't know about the potential uprisings, but I knew they were angry with me. Instead of acting with the extreme caution the situation called for, what have I done? From the president's point of view, I've ignored Peter and flaunted my preference for Gale's company before the whole district, and by doing so made it clear I was, in fact, marking the capital. Now I've endangered Gale and his family and my family and Peter, too, by my carelessness. Please don't hurt Gale, I whispered. He's just my friend. He's been my friend for years. That's all that's between us. Besides, everyone thinks we are cousins now. I'm only interested in how it affects your dynamic with Peter. Surrounded by a feeling the mood in the district, he says. It will be the same on the tour. I will be in love with him just as I was, I said. Just as you are, correct President Snow. Just as I am, I confirmed. Only you will have to do even better if the uprisings are to be a fatality. He says, this tour will be your only chance to turn things around. I know I will. I will convince everyone in the district that I wasn't defying the capital, that I was crazy with love, I say. President Snow rushes and dabs his puffy lips with a napkin. Aim higher in case you fall short. What do you mean? How can I aim higher? I ask. Convince me. He says. He drops a napkin and drops his book. I don't watch him as he heads for the door, so I cringe when he whispers in my ear. By the way, I know about the keys. Then the door keys shuts behind him.